What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Modern Fatherhood Podcast. I'm the host, Wes, and with me is Chris. And you've been on the show before, so just brief introduction and we'll get right to it.
Chris. Been fighting as a father for 5 years since the inception of my child. And I've just had countless litigation, and I feel like I have a lot that I can share and to help dads kind of navigate and just give some good advice just through my experience. So yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been a little while. Last time we talked, you had just gone through another trial, and so what's been going on since then?
So I think when we first got on the cast, I I I was just moved to another judge, if I'm not mistaken. And so I guess like the whole start of that moving to another judge was really like, I guess, understanding that from the beginning. Like I had filed a motion 2 years ago, um, September of 2023, and only one issue out of the multitude of issues was resolved, and just the issues that I had asked for in that original motion was, a modification of child support because my parenting time went up exponentially. So the child support modification, getting her a passport, adding my last name to her name. Um, uh, Hold on, I might be drawing about other things. Sorry, passport, child support, last name, um, schooling and immunizations. We wanted to get her school and immunize, 2 years ago. So those were the big things. So after I filed that motion, the judge that I was with, we had a trial, but we only had a trial regarding my last name. And so once the last name was resolved and my last name was added to my child's name, of course, then that judge wanted to move the case, or he was like, "We'll deal with child support on a later date," and he said this date was supposed to be like in March of 2024, and essentially this never happened, right? So like
Right.
we he kept kind of kicking the can down the road, and then we found out that he eventually just gave the case to another judge, but we didn't know that he gave that the case had moved for months. And so there were like my case ended up being stagnant. Nothing, no, there was zero movement despite me and my attorney at the time sending countless letters of correspondence to try to get the case relisted. So when we finally get in front of this new judge, again, this is still a motion that was pending. Um, in the meantime, I had filed a funny thing. I had filed a motion to hear a motion, and then I had filed a motion for full legal custody, and and then this new judge, made us go to mediation, but a different type of mediation. So in New Jersey, like we do this mediation in court where they just kind of have mediators there. Well, we have
Right.
kind of exhausted that, so this new judge immediately like made us go to a paid mediation. So our attorneys, and we had to pay another attorney to mediate. So we're essentially paying three attorneys to try to resolve an issue regarding the mediation was regarding child support. So this mediation happens and it fails. I send all of the things that I agreed upon, and then the opposition doesn't send me anything, fires their attorney, and so now I have to file a motion to compel her to give me whatever documents, or it was a motion to compel, or it was a motion to not allow my documents to be admissible because she had obtained them by under good faith. I was giving them to her. That's what we agreed in that mediation. So we file this motion, then we have another court date. And it took lots of letters of correspondence just to even get this court date. So we finally get this court date, and we're thinking like, he's going to deal with at least a bunch of these issues. And we both had attorneys, and each time we went in front of the judge wouldn't let the attorneys speak, wouldn't let us speak. The judge just kept taking them back to chambers, and having chambers meetings and having everything off the record.
I
And this
remember
ha-
you telling me that.
yeah, this happened multiple times, going back and forth, going back and forth. Both attorneys essentially clarified, like, "Listen, we want a hearing. We need to be able to speak." And the judge was like, "Okay, we'll do it." And so we go to lunch and we come back, and then judge is like, "Chambers again," and he essentially like forces. He like comes back and he's like, "Listen," my attorney comes out and he's like, Chris, the judge says he's going to put you in jail if you don't agree to a number for child support. Instead of having a fair hearing, he was like forcing me to agree to some number. And it's like, we're here for a fair trial, like, or hearing, like, give us some fairness here. We have an argument. Like, I want to be heard on my argument. And so goes back in, chamber meeting, comes back in. The judge isn't changing his position. Jail, or you agree to something. So under duress, we agreed to a number. And the funny thing is, like, during all of this, I actually, like, have the conads that like go into the courtroom, and I attempt to interrupt court. I'm like, because I'm like furious. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I walk into the courtroom, and like the judge, like, I interrupt the judge. Is like, please leave. And so I'm like, okay, fine. He's like, obviously not even gonna hear it. But I did that. I totally did that. It was hilarious. So we agree to this number, and then they go on the record. Both attorneys go into the courtroom, and they're like, saying, okay, fine, we agree. But even the opposition is like, well, we really don't agree, but we agree. And even my attorney is like, we really don't agree as well, but we agree. And so they put all the numbers, they put all this stuff on the record, right? And then, of course, the opposition's attorney is like, well, can you just make sure you put all of this in a court order? And so the judge is like, yep, I'll make sure I put all the calculations, everything will be in a court order for you guys, so it will be spick and span. So after this hearing, I want to say about a week later, maybe even 2 weeks later, we finally get the court order. And nothing is in the court order as he said it. And so now I'm like, not only were we forced to make this decision, but now nothing is in here. Now I have to rely on trying to communicate with the opposition to clarify all of this, which just creates more of a mess. And so I think
that's the whole point of the court order, so you don't have to do any of that.
And so I think that's sort of around where we had left off. Is this kind of left me to file a complaint against the judge. I filed a complaint against the judge, and unfortunately I had to file a complaint against the previous judge because the situation, here's where the wrongdoing happened, the judicial misconduct, is when I filed my motion, and it had like all 5 of those factors that we were dealing with, right? The initial judge wasn't supposed to move that motion to another judge. He was supposed to deal with all of those factors, close that motion out before moving it. So that was the first part of misconduct. And I really liked the other judge, not necessarily that he was just giving things in my favor, but he was a very fair judge in general. So then it got moved into this other judge, and this other judge, his misconduct started happening when he was just delaying. Like, he had this motion in front of him for over a year, and he wouldn't make a decision on the motion whatsoever. And the only decision that he actually made was when he forced us under duress to make a decision.
Right.
So there's a whole list and documented misconduct, and then putting me under duress. And so I filed that made me file. So I filed the complaint. Then I received something from the judicial board saying that my complaint was moving forward and that the judge was being investigated. So here was the key part that I did, is I took this complaint, even though the judge hasn't technically been found, like, he wasn't guilty or of anything at the moment, but because he was under investigation now, I took this complaint and I filed a motion with it. First I filed an emergency motion so that I could get my daughter into school and I can get her immunized, because school was starting in a month. And it's like, she needs to start school.
Right.
But at the same time, I also filed the motion to recuse. And in the motion to recuse that judge, I had made that document public. I sent, you have to send it to the opposition and you have to send it to the court. So I let all parties know that this judge is being investigated for misconduct regarding this case. So I can't say this for sure, but silently, we get in front of a new judge, right? This new judge technically denies my emergency motion, even though it is, basically emergent. He denies it because he doesn't think that it's fair to have it decided under emergency motion. He thinks that it deserves a regular hearing, and he acknowledged that. So he ended up scheduling that for a regular hearing, but then he was like, well, you still have this motion for recusal pending. And I was like, I withdraw the motion for recusal, because if I didn't withdraw the motion to recuse, I would have had to wait longer to get my daughter in school. I would have had to go
Right.
in front of the other judge or this judge, whoever. I have no idea at this point because they're just making up the rules as they're going at this point in this time. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna withdraw the motion to recuse. Let's just speed this up. Let's not let this clog it up. The motion did what I think it needed to happen. Like I
Right.
think the motion silently recused the judge silently recused himself after withdrawing that. But in general, the facts are out there. Everybody knows. So I think what we wanted to happen happened. So then we have our first hearing regarding schooling and immunizations, and the judge is like, this new judge. We have a new judge now. We have a conference hearing, and he's just trying to get the factors of like how this trial is going to go, because like we don't have professional witnesses, and at the same time I guess that's really it. We don't have really anything to substantiate it aside from, after being in trial, everything is that we have is basically hearsay. But
Right.
so he's like, okay, so you have no witnesses except for yourselves, and you're going to give me some information, and I'm going to make a decision. So we go into the first trial, which was September 11th. She testifies, I testify. Again, this trial is only regarding immunizations and schooling. So we essentially, in my mind, I definitely did not focus on the schooling, because I was thinking all schools being equal, like, and with our case law regarding immunizations, it would just be best if we focus on the immunizations, because I just assumed, like, I made a case for the schooling with it being so local and it costing no money, and and again, all schools being equal, she's going to get an education. To where the opposition, we were going to court under the impression that she thought, or that she was going to make the argument that she was going to have a religious exemption,
Right.
right? So I testify first. I'm basically attacking this religious exemption. I'm attacking these points, which was a valuable lesson that I learned, by the way. Um, stick to just your argument. Don't try to attack their argument until they make their argument. So I'm trying to kind of like argue. I'm trying to make my point, but also argue against her point at the same time.
Right.
But she made it really, really easy for us. So in New Jersey, the only way that you get a religious exemption is if you have an actual, or sorry, if you, the only way you get an exemption from immunizations is if you have an actual religious exemption, something that's credible, or you
Right.
have a medical issue, something that's like medically they can't have it. Those are the only two exceptions in New Jersey. Well, she didn't have anything medically wrong with her to why she couldn't have an immunization, right? And the religious part is we were able to prove in court that she already had an immunization, so her credibility was therefore lacking. But
Zilch.
but the opposition already did our job for us, because she finally admitted to the judge that it wasn't anything other than her perspective, her point of view, why she shouldn't be immunized. So the judge, as soon as she said that we kind of already knew, like that's not one of those two factors. And I think at that point we knew that she was going to be immunized.
Oh yeah.
So at the end of the trial, the judge was like, "Give me 2 weeks, and or sorry, give me some time, and I'll give you guys my verdict." 2 weeks goes by. Again, now school's already started, by the way.
Yeah.
2 weeks goes by. We're almost to, like, at the end of September, and he's like, "I don't have enough information regarding schooling, so we need to open up the trial to have a trial regarding schooling." So we we had our trial last Thursday, so it's literally a week ago. We just had our trial a week ago,
Yeah.
and
When you texted me, right?
yeah, yeah, and we went in guns blazing. Um, so here's what I learned at this trial. Even though, so I had a lot of evidence regarding the state websites as to, and we had a lot of case law as well. We had tons of case law that backed up our my position, and we came up with a brief ourselves. Like, we had the brief, we had the case law, and we were doing a good job kind of redirecting, or
Right.
directing ourselves, and talking about the brief, and talking about the case law in my entire argument. Literally to the point where the judge is like, I didn't see a brief and I didn't read a brief, but you keep referencing this Donahue case. He's like, if you keep referencing it, I'm gonna have to take a minute to read this. So like I kept relying, my case was heavily relied on this case law, which is kind of what you're supposed to do.
I mean, yeah.
And so my documents were essentially state website documents and the state code for education, to where all of her documents were just the website for the private school, how much it's going to cost, just all of these crazy factors. And my stance was the court should not be making decisions based on religion. And anytime it comes to an argument or a situation in religion in court, the courts want neutrality, and that was the law here in New Jersey. And that's what I was focusing on so much. And so she wanted this private religious school, and I just wanted public school.
Right.
And my position was, her family wanted to pay for it. Private school or public school is free. Private school, for her private school is far away. Our private school is right in the town that we live in. So like the case law, my argument just totally made sense.
Yeah, stability, closer,
And so
everything like that.
so everything that she presented in court for evidence was hearsay, and I just objected to everything, just about everything, because it was all hearsay. But there was a funny situation where one of her pieces of paper, one of her documents, even though I knew it was hearsay, I didn't object to it, because the document basically outlined the teachers have a good relationship with Jesus Christ. They encourage relationships with Jesus Christ to the students. And so because my argument in my case law was all based on neutrality and the courts want neutrality, I was like, I didn't object, but in my cross-examination, I had her read all of those points, and then I asked her, so would you say that these are all religious reasons why this document is all religious reasons why she should go to the school, and they're selling religion? And of course she said yes. Well, in the final decision, so of course at the end the judge ruled in my favor. He gave me temporary full legal custody for schooling and for immunizations, to get her immunized and for schooling.
Heck yeah.
And yeah, it was great. But in his decision, he was like, "Sir, I think you were trying. I know that this." He's like, "All of this evidence, even my evidence, was all hearsay, by the way," and I learned that very quickly. But he's like, "But I'm going to accept your evidence because it was more credible." She didn't object to anything, so there was no reason for him not to accept it. But since it went into evidence, he decided and believed that my evidence was more credible because it was coming from like the state websites. But it was like, you were trying to get points on this one, even though it was hearsay. He's like, I didn't accept that. He's like, I didn't take that to any consideration. But that's how court's supposed to go. You're supposed to allow, she wants to make the argument, you're supposed to rebut it. And but he didn't accept the evidence. Um and so in his decision, he was basically like, I have some temporary full legal custody for school, for getting her enrolled in school, and for getting her immunized and getting her caught up for immunizations. But the judge wasn't done there. The judge was like, okay, you guys have a lot of motions that are moot, or they're not resolved. All right. So now, before I move forward, keep in mind, this judge came out of retirement. He was retired. This judge came out of retirement to deal with cases like mine, not necessarily mine specifically, but cases like mine. So this judge is like, okay, you have all of these pending motions. He's like, how, if you allow me to dismiss these motions, how about I'll allow you to refile all of them? He's like, you can refile all of them and just clean it up. He's like, just bring them up to date. He's like, maybe you don't need something anymore, or maybe you do. He's like, I want to give you a fair chance. Just let me clean this up. You let me dismiss all of these, and I'll let you refile all of it, and we'll accept the motions to hear, right? But on top of it, he's like, I'll do you one even better. So don't forget, we still had a vague court order regarding child support, right?
Right.
That
The one
that
that you were forced to do.
Yeah, so we were already moving forward with like, okay, we're gonna file a motion to vacate that order, and then we're going to refile to hear. It would have been a huge long process. This judge at the end of it was like, how about this? I'm gonna do you one even better. If you allow me to dismiss this, and I'm allowing you to refile all of the things that you want, he's like, I'll also let you refile for child support, and we'll date it back to the original motion. So he's giving me another opportunity to go back and have my fair hearing regarding child support. And of course, he was very diplomatic. He was like, it could be less, it could be more. He was like, it could be whatever it is. But he's like, I'm going to give you a fair opportunity to go back and do all of it. So, in my opinion, he essentially gave me everything and the kitchen sink.
Yeah, for sure.
So, so now, after court, by the way, I have like now 1 week to file to write this big. Me and my girlfriend, she's calling it the big beautiful motion. So we have 1 week to file this big beautiful motion, and to make an argument. But in the meantime, the opposition I'm going to say, is kind of cooperating. Because we had to change. Because our daughter's going to be starting school, we have to change the schedule. We have to
Oh
change
yeah.
the pickup. And so, we brought that up to the judge, and the judge is like, listen, if you guys want to consent, he's like, if it's within reason, you guys agree to whatever you want, and I'll just sign it. He's like, if it's within reason, you guys can agree to whatever you want. So we were able
Yeah,
to come.
the best plan and the best order is something that is agreed to between the parents, and it doesn't have to go through someone else.
Yeah, so we taking it in baby steps. And again, like, when it's just me, like, I'm like a kind of person that's like, let's just bite the bullet and let's just get it all done and over with. I have a lot of voices of reasons around me, especially right now. Like, my girlfriend Victoria is a huge support. I think we talked about her last time. Like, she's in this just as much as I am, trying to just get things resolved. And between her and her dad, like, it was like great too. Like, before trial, her dad was like prepping me orally and like how to speak, and just try to like clean my argument up while I'm speaking. And so it was like a really great support system. So again, instead of focusing on all of the things, they've basically talked to me into, like, you know what, let's just take the little bites first. It's the little bites. So we have one little consent order that we both already agree on, and we need it notarized so we can submit it and have it signed and submitted. And then hopefully this weekend we'll start negotiating on some of the other issues. And so those issues that are still outstanding, that remain, the passport, I want her to have a passport, correct? So we
Right.
want a passport. I want the child, well, of course, the child support, right? So we have the
Right.
passport, we have the child support that we still need that we get to resolve now. Um, the family app, because right now we have to pay $150 each a year for the family court app.
That's crazy.
Well, so our family wizard costs like $150 a year, but an app called AppClose is free.
Right.
It's a court ordered app, but it's free to use for communication. So I want to change to AppClose because it's free. But the mother
Sure.
is like, no, I like this. But it's like, you want child support and you can't afford anything, but you want to keep this app that costs you basically like 10% of child support. Like,
Right.
all of this money could go towards our daughter instead of paying for it. So back to the list. So we have child support. We have a family court app that I want to change over to. We have a passport that we want to get. The motion for full legal custody is still happening because that has a lawsuit wrapped around it for the full legal custody. So that's going to be involved as well. And then changing changing to week on, week off. Like, when our daughter starts school, it's just going to be so much better and more efficient for her to be with her for a week, with me for a week, with her for a week. Because right now we have a 2-2-3 schedule.
Mm.
And so, the 2-2-3 is fine. It was fine in the beginning, especially because she has consistency with the both of us. But for schooling purposes, I mean, I think it'll be much better. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I can be convinced otherwise, but I don't. I don't think so.
I mean, I personally think you're right. The week on, week off schedule would be better. Plus, when it comes to child support and stuff, you could just wipe it clean because half the exact amount of time that your daughter is with you versus her is exactly 50-50 at that point. So you
Well,
just
the two
wipe
two
it.
three is the same. Like, it's still an exact 50-50 schedule. It in fact, the funny thing is, a 2-2-3 might actually be a 2-2-3 and a 2-2-5 might be closer to 50% than week on, week off. And I know it sounds a little weird, but I think it has to do with like the leap year, where like one year there's like going to be an extra day. Um, but the other thing also is like we have to change the holiday schedule as well, and that I think that's the problem. That's actually what makes it more desirable for me. Um, so the holiday schedule is a little sexist because the court anticipates like a standard like every other weekend and the father gets their 1 day a week kind of schedule, right?
Right.
So the holiday schedule is basically voiced like, um, or it's worded, the non-custodial parent gets all of these additional times at holidays. So like on other days where like the holiday is unnecessary, I technically will get her because she doesn't want to change the holiday schedule. So I guess that's another issue as well that I forgot to bring up is the holiday schedule needs to be revamped. And then there's like I feel like there was one more thing, but there's still a lot of issues that just need to be resolved, to just be cleared out, so that there's just no more back and forth. Because the goal is, let's get out of litigation, let's get out of the constantly going back and forth. That way, we can just focus on raising our child.
Right.
All right, I know I said a lot.
No, I mean it is good to hear that there's a judge out there that'll actually be fair about it. Like I know that had to be a breath of fresh air for you.
Well, so it's kind of funny. So that we had a hearing. So between September 11th and October 4th or 9th, last Thursday the 9th, we actually had a hearing. Um, it was a virtual hearing, and I like so we had this virtual hearing, and this is where he was like, I don't have enough information to make a decision regarding school, so can we need to have another trial so that I can get more information regarding school. And so I was like, Your Honor, what do you mean we need another trial? Like, in your own words, in your own what you said the last time, you were like, she didn't make an argument for schooling at all. Like, and the case law that we've submitted to you supports public school. Like, I was like, Your Honor, you're the one who said that she didn't make an argument for it. She didn't overcome any argument. And then he's like, I withdraw my words. And he's like, sir, I know that you want to get her in school. And I was so I started taking control of the conversation. I was like, so is this going to be an evidentiary hearing? Like, what do you like? And he's like, you guys are the ones that didn't come with lawyers. And I was like, we had lawyers for 2 years, and uh, we had to file a complaint. I was like, just on the attack. The judge is like, listen, you're having another hearing in 2 weeks. It's gonna be an evidentiary hearing. You don't have lawyers. I'm not going to tell you what to bring, but do what you need to do. And I was like, okay. So I was like, I kind of blew up on him. But the fact that he was like, I withdraw my words was like hilarious. And the funny thing is like, I recorded the hearing too. So like, and we can get the audio. Oh, I forgot I have to get the audios for those. But it's like the funniest thing having this judge like, I withdraw my words. He was like, I'm not going to pigeonhole myself. But in my mind, I'm like, if I'm pigeonholing you or you're pigeonholing you yourself, doesn't that mean that I'm winning this argument that you should be agreeing with the premise of what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Like, I I would assume that that's why we're in court, is to make arguments. And if you're pigeonholed, like it's not my fault that you're the one who is saying what should happen and what you believe. And well, I can definitely say I would not recommend arguing with a judge, that's for sure. But also at the end of the trial,
Maybe not.
no. But at the end of our trial last week, he did compliment me. Um, he was like, he's like, I'm going to give you guys some time, make an order of consent. And he was like, sir, you're really good at this. And I was like, okay. And then we were talking about, any order. He's like, any order you guys want, anticipate some things and see. He's like, sir, again, this is another thing you're agreeing. He's like, you're in, because I like when I make motions, I'm very thorough. He's like, every time you make a motion, like you're anticipating if next week the sun is going to rise and it's going to rain and the dew is going to be on this leaf. And I'm like, I'm trying to do is make sure and anticipate any kind of issue, because coming back to court is not beneficial. Like, because the opposition, and this is like the truth. This is what fathers go through all the time, is the opposition, usually mothers, understand and know that all they have to do is not cooperate and not co-parent, and it has to go through the system. And in my situation, it's a perfect example. If the opposition knows she doesn't have to cooperate because she knows that it will take 2 years plus for a decision to be made, my argument is made concrete right there. She knows it. And that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah, that's very true. That's the case most of the time. If they don't cooperate, all of a sudden we're going through the court system and we're having to sit here and file, like you said, file motions and go through attorneys, and it's one thing after another.
Yeah, this judge was like, he's like, I'm retired and I've never seen more motions in one case than I have in this case. Because I mean, we have 15 plus motions filed, probably more. Like I said, this is now our fourth trial in 5 years, over 30 court hearings. And I could say, like, there's a lot of places like where, and this is like, it's like, this is where like most fathers would just be like, it's so convoluted. The system is so convoluted. It's so imitating that it's just like, okay, I'm not going to fight. But like, when things just don't make sense, it's like, no, I'm not going to just be silent. I'm going to, starting my father's organization and documenting my case as much as I'm documenting is exactly for this reason. Like, dads need to not only know how this works, but they need to know that, like, all they have to do is have a voice and stand up, and like, the court will listen. If I didn't realize or didn't feel like I was wronged when that judge put pressure on me, or when that judge just ignored my motions for a year and a half, like, I wouldn't have thought to make a complaint. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make a complaint. What is it going to hurt? Like, if anything, it's going to help. And then I honestly didn't expect that complaint to be investigated. I thought that complaint was going to go somewhere and it was going to get buried, and it was just not going to be. It was not going to come to the light of day. But what I kept doing is every week I would email the office. I would be like, hey, is there any updates on this complaint? And they would give me a runaround. And then a month later, they were like, oh, we didn't even realize that they're like, oh, this was never given to them. And I was like, so wait, I was like, but what about all the emails that I've sent? Oh, you must not have been sending it to the right person. So, because like I had called like a month later, you must not have been sending it to the right person. I was like, well, it's a good thing I've documented all my emails. They got on the phone, like, within 2 weeks, I received a letter in the mail about the judge being investigated. It was unbelievable. I wonder if I can find it, because like, I know I can show you some things now. I think we figured that out last time.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, your case is definitely a good example for dads to not just roll over and take it.
Oh, definitely not.
Because like you said, there's so many dads that they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And every time they get hit, they start staying, a little further down on their ladder until eventually they just feel like there's no point anymore, and they give up. And that's not the way it needs to be. You can't give up, especially when it comes to your kids. I just made a TikTok the other day about how sitting on your ass isn't an option.
Absolutely not.
And that goes for more than just working and providing. That goes for fighting for your kids too, if you're fighting for your kids. Which we're filing a motion now to have complete total custody and get the way free and clear for his stepmom to adopt him.
Okay.
She hasn't shown up to any of her court dates, from what I hear. She's lost all her other kids, is my understanding.
Wow.
All of them. I think 6. Yeah, six other kids, and she doesn't have custody of a single one of them.
Yes, we don't. Hold on. What is the reason for that?
Drugs.
What?
Oh. Annabug?
What?
Can you please go upstairs? Thank you, honey. So I'm just gonna. You can edit this out, right? I'll trust you to.
Yeah, I could definitely edit it out.
All right, so let me figure out how to show you my screen then. I know we figured out the last time. No, it's share screen. So I'm going to share my window so you can see it here. Just edit my name and stuff out here.
Okay, yeah, we'll go over and you can tell me everything you want me to remove out.
So they're in receipt of my formal complaint that they received, on May. So keep this in mind. So I sent it in May. All throughout May, they kind of disregarded it. So at the end of June or the middle of June is when I'm like, "Where's this complaint?" And then they finally bring it up. So they're letting me know that they're in receipt of it, and they're going to move forward with the committee, and they're going to make a decision for discipline.
That's crazy.
So being able to have a letter like this, let's go ahead and. I don't know. This is pretty cool. Learning how to do this on your. I like your platform here.
Riverside's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I recently went because I record so much, and I found out you only have so much time for the free one. So I was just like, oh shit.
So
and
what
I
is
went to the Riverside Pro membership, and it has so many more options, like AI editing, the whole thing. Like when we get done recording, it'll process everything, and then AI goes through and scrubs everything.
What
Like
is it?
every time I say and stuff, it'll just clip all that out automatically.
Jeez, that's pretty cool.
Which it was like a 2.5 hour long episode that's in the books, and I think it took like 3 minutes of and ahs out.
Funny. So as you can see, being diligent, like just continuing to press on, is really like that's the only thing that's ever worked for me, is just pressing on, being diligent, like calling them out. I think this new judge saw, and he kept acknowledging. He's like, I don't understand why this took 2 years to even resolve. He's like, but this never would have happened under me. And so coming back to, remember how I said this judge is retired, right?
Right.
So he came back for specific cases like mine. And so the reasoning, I think, that he was like, hey, let me dismiss all of these motions and you just do one new motion. Possibly, my support system disagrees with me, but possibly, and I'm guess we'll talk about this in 45 days when I'm back in court. But I think that the judge is like, he wants to get back to retirement. And so by me filing a brand new motion, they can give it to a new judge. They can be like, okay, this new judge is going to start this new case from scratch. Everything else is resolved because it's all dismissed. And I think that's a possibility. My support system believes in things like strongly. Even my girlfriend and her dad, who's an attorney, thinks that he's actually just going to handle the case. He's going to just take the case still. I'm a little unsure, but that's currently where we are. Is next week, if the opposition doesn't agree to some of the easy things, a lot of things are easy. If we don't have another consent order by next week, then I have to file this big beautiful motion so that we can try to just finish the rest of the unresolved issues and hopefully just get out of court for good.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely always the goal. I think it could go either way. He could be trying to pass it to a new judge, or he could just be trying to handle all the issues that you guys have in one sitting and just be done with it.
Well, he's going to be the first judge to actually get us to consent to something. Like, we've had a lot of judges, like, all of the judges keep telling me two things that all of the judges in New Jersey keep telling me that seem to be like they just make up the rules. The first thing is one family, or one judge, one family, or one family, one judge. And it's like, well, I've had like multiple judges, and not only multiple judges on one motion. So like I'm not. I think there were like four judges that technically that we referenced this motion with. One, two, three, yeah, four in one motion. So it's like I'm not too. What are you talking about? Like
That
one judge, one family. Like that's it's like they just make the rules up as they're going.
that is kind of funny to hear, considering the judge that handled the custody case for my parents handled the custody case for my son.
That is interesting.
Same judge.
Yeah.
And he actually, from what
What
I understood and from things I've heard, he got investigated too. He's a lot of his rulings are under investigation.
what I understand is like when they mean one judge, one family, they basically just mean when you file a motion, it's that one judge is going to handle that motion. Is That's kind of how I interpret it. Not necessarily like we're going to have one judge forever, because in New
Right.
Jersey, judges get recycled like every 2 years. They move around. So that I think that's what they meant. And the second thing, and this is the big one, is what they call judicial economy. See, judicial economy is where when you file a motion, they don't they don't piecemeal it. Judicial economy is they deal with everything all at one time. And so judicial economy is essentially like what probably messed this whole case up. So when I filed that initial motion 2 years ago with all five things, and we only had a trial regarding the last name, the judge could have had a trial regarding everything, or he could have resolved the issue, the motion, by saying, we'll have a trial on this and this, and I'm just going to make a decision on these items. That would
Right.
have been judicial economy and resolving everything. Piecemealing it is when they want to do one thing at a time. And so every time I was in front of, especially the one that I got to recuse, he's like, "We're not going to piecemeal this." And then you hear her attorney and my attorney, yeah, judicial economy. We deal with everything at one time, and I'm over here like, okay, I mean, everything at one time, because not like we didn't just piecemeal this and piecemeal that, so and it's not like you're going to deal with everything right now. So it's like they use these terms to try to really confuse you, like what just happened. And because of judicial economy, um, one of my trials got derailed. The judge said it was my fault why we didn't have that trial, and I was like, well, I subpoenaed all of my witnesses for full legal custody, but because I didn't have doctors, that didn't say I had to have doctors. It just said if I was going to have doctors, because I didn't subpoena any doctors that were immunization experts. Like, it's my fault that the trial was canceled. It's like I subpoenaed all the correct witnesses when it came to the full legal custody, and then it was that judge that was recused, silently recused, I should say. I don't know for a fact. You know, after filing that, or after he like dismisses it, it's like, well, I just paid a fortune to to hire a private investigator, to subpoena all of these doctors for full legal custody, to retain my attorney to prepare him for this trial, and a week before trial, the judge cancels the trial. Well, there went a life savings for literally nothing.
Literally.
Literally nothing. It went completely out the window.
It I talk about it a lot, and me and a couple other dads do too, and you see it a lot. And all of us always end up talking about how the family court system is about money.
It's a money machine, that's for sure.
It's a money machine. And so it's like here in Georgia, the child support, the way it all works here, it's a money machine. And it's I saw recently somebody commented on one of my legitimization posts. They were just like, well, what does a woman do to get legitimized? I was like, what?
That's a weird question.
She was like, well, a woman might need to be legitimized. I said, in what case? Why does a woman have to prove that the kid
That
is theirs?
baby
It's
didn't come
not.
out of them. That's not how biology works.
I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And then there was a couple that had a baby in vitro, and it's two women. And now instead of, I finally had an answer, like, in what situation would a woman have to like try to go through legitimization? They don't. They go through the adoption process. So to answer your question, very angry person on TikTok, you adopt. not legitimized. It was aggressive. I've never once had to think about that because the legitimization process and everything is strictly for men, and it is a situation where it's strictly for money purposes.
Well, the funny thing is the legitimization process isn't every state. It's it's definitely your state, but we just go through paternity in New Jersey. Why go through an extra step when paternity is just like
it from my understanding, it's because of common law marriages.
because that's not a thing here in New Jersey either.
Oh yeah, no, it ended here. I think 2019, I believe, was the year they finally ended common law. But yeah, common law marriages were a thing here, and so you would have people that would abuse the common law marriage, and it that's where it became really messy between birth certificates not being on the birth certificates. But they were married. Well, do they have a marriage certificate? No, it was common law. That was a big issue here. Especially, I mean, even just divorces, because you'd have men that were dating a girl for X amount of time, and then she would file and say, "Oh, we were common law married. I want half his assets."
I remember there was a big case here in New Jersey, and they were actually a client of ours when I lived in Red Bank. And this guy, his name is Sergio. His case, he's like this 80-year-old man too. He was a very, very nice guy, but his case was the case that actually ended common law in New Jersey, like back in the 70, I don't. And so essentially, like, he was divorced and he owned a bunch of hotels, and he basically had this girlfriend that lived with him, and he broke up with her because he's a rich older man and he wanted other women. And because she lived with her, he supported her for so long, like she was like, I want the same support. You got to support me. And so his case was the case that ended up ending common law. I'm not too sure exactly where that went, because I imagine, like, if it was ending that law and they were like, you know what, we got to get rid of this, I imagine it didn't go so well for him.
It couldn't have. Couldn't have. I would imagine it probably went in the tune of he has to pay his girlfriend alimony.
Yeah.
And she probably got some major assets, and then afterwards they were just like, guys, we that was bad.
If the men could just view the law of common law the same way they view parental rights, maybe we might get a little bit more traction.
Maybe you're not wrong.
Yeah.
We it's been a big talking point lately about marriage. And why men aren't getting married anymore.
Ooh, I love this topic. I talk about it all the time. In fact, I just got into the doghouse with my girlfriend's mom because I was a little too honest about this topic.
Yeah, that tends to happen.
Well, so we'll pause really quick. You brought up the TikTok thing. Do you follow other groups on Facebook?
I follow a good number of them. I'm trying to remember to move everything from my personal Facebook over to the podcast Facebook.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's so busy trying to keep up with posting and going through everything.
if you want to talk and have some drama and just see some crazy posts, follow a group called The Ugly Truth About Co-Parenting. And it's literally just a bunch of mothers, like, trying to figure, it's like an echo chamber for mothers on how to, first of all, be victims, and then second of all, how to alienate the fathers from their children's lives. It's like such a crazy group. Like, and I always get warnings in it, because, like, so it'll be like a mother being like, how do I get more child support, or how do we resolve child support and doing this, or, and then, like, they don't really give too many details, and I'm like, well, just give them 50% time, and then you don't have to worry about supporting the child so much. That is not the answer. That is not the solution. And then I get like flagged, like I get like flagged all of the time. And it's actually kind of funny. I used to get flagged in like all the dads groups because I'm pretty like aggressive. And Anthony Cancel, he runs Pro Se Dads, which I think he just changed it. He's like one of the best resources. If you're not affiliated with Anthony Cancel and Pro Se Dads, you should definitely get affiliated with him. He's incredible resources. But even before like I was like kind of knew him, I was like getting banned and blocked on his platform too. And then like I remember we were like talking. He's like, Chris, how are you not on level 3 of this group? I'm like, because I'm banned. He was like, what? So he had his assistant come in, and then like they found out what I said and what I did. He's like, can you be nice? I was like, yeah, I guess. I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
sure.
I'm just passionate. I'm just passionate. Because on Facebook, like I try not to be a troll, but when people give vague information and they don't give enough, like you don't expect a real response. And so I troll a little bit, and when I say troll, I really stand up for dads and trying to say like, listen, just 50-50, like stop beating around the bush. Raising a child is hard enough. We don't need the courts involved. We don't need states involved. Like the fact that there are these fathers' rights groups is like unbelievable. Like it really is. But
Well, we shouldn't have to fight for the right to be fathers.
absolutely,
That's the
absolutely.
biggest thing. Like, if you cut all the fluff away, you cut the anger, and you cut all the posts and everything that you see. The thing in the end is, you shouldn't have to fight for the right just to be a dad to your kid.
Yes.
But so many of us do.
So I have a request. So
So,
maybe you can get another dad. Maybe we can get like a few dads in to talk about the topic of why guys aren't getting married. I feel like a group of us would have a phenomenal conversation. Just like one night, all of us like talking about it, having some beers, and just like just
ooh.
letting it loose.
Yeah, especially after they have a few beers and they really start speaking.
I don't
See
need
how
beers.
that goes.
I don't need beers to be direct. I'm direct,
Uh,
unfortunately,
Not
without beer.
about that, that's for sure.
Hmm.
I don't either. I talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
I was on live and there was a guy. He was just like, I'm really thinking about getting married. I was like, why?
I think why is a fair question. It really is. But again, hold on. Let's totally save that because I think that would be an amazing podcast.
That'd be a good episode.
I think that would be
We,
great
we
for you.
could do a
So,
whole episode
oh,
on that.
oh,
We could
we'll
probably
get.
do numerous episodes.
I'm gonna get all kinds of hate mail.
Oh man, I get it all the time. I didn't
uh,
realize I don't check my spam folder on my podcast email, and I finally did. I was trying to get, it was like a password reset or something, and I went
yeah.
in there and I looked, and it was just like fuck you, and it was just like paragraphs, and most of the time you could tell that they were just angry typing, and so half of it wasn't making sense. The grammatical errors were giving me a headache, but it was just like fuck you, I hate you, all you do is spread hate. And I was just like, where? What are you talking
Jeez.
about?
Some people just don't like the truth.
No, it was kind of surprising. I got death threats after the whole Charlie Kirk thing,
Ooh. Ooh.
and I was
Was
just
that
like, I
was that
didn't even.
was that before or after that we our first time
That was
talking?
after. That was
Was that
September 10th, I think. It was right before 9/11.
right? So yeah, so it was before that happened after we spoke. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
that was that was a very sad week. I mean, it's still kind of a sad month. It's still, you know, eh, it's a very terrible situation.
yeah. It
I feel like
was.
I feel like that could be its own podcast talking about that, and you know, I feel like that.
It's we talked about my the the pagan podcast I do. We ended up talking about it, and the clips from that, and just moving some of the topic over to the dad page.
Yeah,
uh, People got very upset. I was just like, I didn't agree. I was like, I'm not saying I agreed with everything he said. I just think it's a shame that these kids are going to grow up without a dad, all because their dad spoke out about what he believed in.
I am curious. Like, what are some of the things that people are saying? What are like the biggest hot topics that people, in your opinion, disagreed with or don't like that he said?
Most of it's always abortion, like his religion, and like gun control. That
Well,
always tends to be the biggest things.
Well,
and some of them care about the immigration stuff, but most of the time you
he
don't
just
really see them talk much about that.
yeah, but I mean, he just had moral beliefs. It's not just because he had moral beliefs doesn't necessarily mean he's incorrect. It's not like his belief made law.
Exactly, which is what I tell people when they get mad. I was just like, it's not. You don't have to agree with his opinions.
Yeah,
That's not how that works. All he did was bring a platform for debate. And I wasn't a big fan of him. I didn't follow him, but there were numerous times where I would see him discussing things with someone, and he's just be like, "Well, here we agree on this, but here's where we disagree, and we have the same common goal. This is what we want. We just have different opinions on how to get there."
yeah.
Things like that. And I was just like, that is lost in today's America. People don't understand debating, not getting offended,
Well, just
finding a common ground. They don't.
dialogue, right? Like it's interesting. When I think in our generation we were raised, the two topics you don't talk about, religion and politics. And
Yep.
the thing is, like, politics doesn't have to be religion. Like, I totally get the religious art. Like, don't talk religion. That's totally fine, right? So if we're not going to talk religion, let's talk politics, and let's try to not necessarily rely on the religious aspect of politics. But that's the reason we don't talk politics is because a lot of politics is based on morality, which is based on your religious
Religion.
belief. You could still have a great conversation about politics without having religious arguments, and that was a big thing Kirk could do. He always came to every debate with two arguments. He could make a religious stand, and he actually had all of his facts and he had all of his understanding without his moral and religious background. So he had two arguments always, and depending on who he was talking to, he would use either one. And he always said that at the beginning of a lot of his debates, he would say, "I can argue my perspective from a moral religious standpoint, or from a pure factual and informational standpoint." He said that. So again, two topics: don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics. But if we talked about politics more often, people would learn to speak a little bit better. People would be able to have more dialogue, right? I mean, like, people can't deal with conflict anymore because they're not allowed to express their opinions because everything is politicized now. Absolutely. This whole hour that we've been talking to is rather political because it has a lot to do with court systems and laws and you know the struggles that we're enduring. And so by saying let's not talk politics, we're essentially saying let's not talk, because everything in the modern era is politicized.
Exactly. And I mean, even look right now with the government shutdown, people don't realize how much politics actually affects their day to day lives.
Well, I've been keeping up with
It,
it quite a bit, but I'm not really sure all of the things that it's reaching out to. And so whenever you're telling me, like, it's even affecting your job, I'm like really curious. I'm like, wow, like that's like insane, because I personally haven't felt anything regarding the shutdown. But it's nice to meet, and not that it's a nice situation, but it's nice to meet people, or to talk to people that seems like, oh wow, this is actually affecting somebody.
yeah. It's so where I live, a very large chunk of the GDP and economy comes from where I work. And you got to think 7,000 employees, give or take. That's not including just union and construction.
Wow.
And people are getting laid off and starting to be furloughed, and they're going to be sent home. If all these people are now being conservative with their money and not spending money, how can that affect the local economies? Like, that's not even talking about the individual aspect of things and how it can just a week, 2 weeks without pay could financially cripple some people.
Hmm.
But just the economy itself and the damage that a shutdown does, people don't realize how bad it can be. And if it continues and it goes on longer.
Right.
I'm blessed enough to be an essential worker. That doesn't mean I'm guaranteed pay the entire time. Eventually they'll run out of money,
Yeah.
and I'll still be required to come to work. How that's going to happen? I guess I'm going to sleep in my I guess I'm going to sleep in my truck. I don't know. We have showers at work. That's probably what it's going to come down to. But
Oh man,
hopefully it doesn't get that bad. But
I hope not.
you're watching this government shutdown, and no one's seeing an end in sight. And every year when you're a federal employee, especially when you have like newer employees, they all get scared every year about budget because they hear about furloughs, they hear about all these things, so they start getting nervous around budget time. And so many years I've said, you don't have anything to worry about, it's going to be okay. And this is one of those years where I can't say that, because all those kids, I call them kids like I'm that much older than them, but you have all these new employees that are getting hired on, that just got hired on, and they're in training. And some of them have officially been hired on, and they've been out here for a certain period of time, so they bought houses, or they bought cars, or they did all these things, and now they're being sent home without pay because people in nice suits up in Washington D.C. can't make up their minds and make a decision and find common ground.
There's a theme. There's a theme here.
There's a theme.
There's a theme here.
From family court all the way up.
I'm really sorry about that, buddy. But we definitely have to do the marriage talk. I feel like that's definitely father related, for sure.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
we can even talk about the different
do that.
hierarchies between being married and not being married. I feel like that'll be a good conversation, man.
Yeah, you know what? Part of that conversation is really going to piss off some people.
I mean,
prenuptial conversation.
I feel like before we even get there, I'm going to piss everybody off. I promise.
Oh, it's going to be a fun conversation.
Even before the prenup.
Yeah, we gotta do. I'm actually really excited about that one.
Well, listen, the sooner the better, because I'm ready to go, and I'll even share a little bit of my situation too. It'll be great. I really enjoy like talking to you. And even last time we got off and we were done recording, like I felt like we'd still talk for a while afterwards. So I very much enjoy talking with you and doing this. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to get an update, because I had people asking me. They're just like, "Hey, whatever happened with that?" I was just like, "I don't know. Let me text him. We'll get an episode going."
Well, it's not over
We'll
yet.
figure it out. So, well, guys, thank you guys for tuning in to the Modern Fatherhood podcast. Make sure you follow his Father's Rights page, and I'll put that in the description of the episode. You can follow me on Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, the whole works. And just come check us out. We will see you next time.